Hey folks, today's video is going to be my overview of the Chapter 3 DLC for Crusader Kings 3. This recently finished with the Wandering Nobles DLC event pack that was released, so I thought it was a good time to go over all the DLC that we got during Chapter 3, and really just my overall thoughts about it, and we can have a discussion in the comments down below. What you thought was good, what you thought was bad, was the chapter path a good addition to the game, and was it worth picking up? Now first off, the first DLC was Legends of the Dead. This is probably going to be the most controversial, I guess, of the DLC. This is one where I see people say they like it, some people don't. Some people like some of the features, some people don't, whereas I think for the most part, the rest of the DLC was generally well received. So this obviously brought us the legend system, it also brought us diseases, it also brought us some content for the Black Death, bringing in a whole set of events and things to really make it a little bit more flavorful. It did also bring us some new legacies, the Court Chronicler system, legendary feasts, legendary buildings, all those kind of things that you'll see on the screen as we talk about it. Now, overall, do I think Legends of the Dead was good? I actually probably like it more than most people. I did a vote on the channel recently, and I think this was the worst rated of the DLC of this expansion pass. And to be honest, I think that's pretty harsh. Now, the funny thing is about this DLC is what I like about it has actually changed since I started playing it. So originally, I loved this for the Legend system. I know, guys, don't turn the video off yet. I actually really liked the Legend system when it first came out. There's some really cool ones. I've done campaigns on the channel around the Sons of Skoda, where you can convince people that Scotland came from Egypt and you can convert all of Scotland to Egyptian and all these kind of cool storyline bits of it. And there's a bunch of other legends as well that work that way. And the legends themselves actually give you quite good bonuses. And a lot of the tier 3 ones, once you finish them, you can get claims on entire empires, all these crazy bonuses. Now, I will say the problem I think with legends, and this is one of the problems, or pretty much the only problem I had with tours and tournaments, is that to get the most out of it, it actually costs you a lot of gold. And I know people will say gold's quite easy to get hold of in Crusader Kings, but especially if you play the earlier start date, which is what I do, I nearly always play in 867, unless I'm going for an interesting run, an achievement, or something like that. If I'm just doing a standard game, I nearly always start in 867, and I've just got way better things to spend my money on than in tours and tournaments like the Grand Tours, things like that. I just don't have the money to do those. And the same thing kind of applies for Legends. I think the Legends can be quite interesting. The problem is that they end up being so expensive. The base ones are, I think, roughly 5 gold a month, and then later on it can get up to like 12 and 13 gold or higher for the tier 3 ones whilst you're supporting them. And I just don't have that kind of money unless I'm playing as an emperor or I'm really working solely to get money to make Legends and support them. I don't generally have that money lying around. And the other thing is that you don't generally see the outcome of Legends. It's not something that if you put that 5 gold into it, you're immediately seeing the return on it. And I know you might say, well, that's the case with buildings, even to some respects, increasing your men-at-arms or something like that, which is what I'd probably rather spend the money on. With Legends, I think it's quite hard to actually see the benefit you're getting as your Legend spreads into different counties, different countries. You can pick up cool bonuses through the events, and the actual bonuses from having these Legends in your realms can be very good. The development one is fantastic. There's plenty of other ones that give you more piety, more prestige, other additional bonuses. But I think it's very hard to sit there and think, well, I want the tier 3 bonus of an empire claim if I'm doing a legitimacy legend, and I'm going to spend all that money for like 6, 7, 10 years to unlock that. But then if you actually sit down and think about it, that's like hundreds and hundreds of gold, maybe even up to 1,000 gold to finish it. And then, like, yes, you get the thing you're after, but what could you have spent that gold on? What is the opportunity cost, to use a business term, of spending that money on something else that you can get an immediate return on, or even you just feel the return on investment on it? So Legends, as I said, I actually like them more at launch. I kind of wish they could balance it some way. Maybe some of the more religious ones, they could have it be like half gold, half piety. Maybe the legitimizing ones could cost you prestige instead. I think that would maybe make it too easy to do them. I would imagine many of you, and let me know in the comments, the gold cost is just too much to be spending on these. But the actual system itself, I think, is pretty good. I know people have an issue with how the Legend system actually fundamentally works, but I think it's generally fine. It's just a cool addition. I think it's actually the cost that prevents most people from doing it. And that was something that I enjoyed at the start and then gradually, not like disliked, I just stopped spending money on it because I wasn't focusing on it in my campaigns. The other major part of this, as mentioned, was the diseases. I actually really like the diseases now. I hated it when it first came in. I like it now I've played it more. To be honest, it's because it brings some spiciness to my campaigns. If you watch my live streams, which I do twice a week on the channel, we recently were going for an achievement in a campaign. We settled down as a landless character for a bit of Roads to Power spoilers here. And we settled in Africa to try to do the second half of an achievement. And that didn't work out because 30 minutes later, a plague came in and literally wiped out my entire house. And I think we lost like 6 characters in 25 minutes or something. And literally the game ended. And that's the first time I've had in a long time where I actually failed in a campaign in Crusader Kings 3. And one of the things I've always said on this channel is the thing that brings me back to Crusader Kings and even EU4 or Imperator Rome or Stellaris, pretty much all the Paradox games, is that they can be very unpredictable. The problem I have with something like Civilization, which I really used to enjoy playing before I kind of got involved in Paradox games and really found how much I enjoyed them. The problem with Civilization is once you know how to play that game, once you master it, it is pretty much impossible for you to lose a game. It can happen before people put it in the comments that it can happen. Yes, I know it can happen, but it's very, very hard. If you know how to play the game, you're pretty much destined to win every time, and you play the same way or pretty much the same way every time you play it. And it's the same for all those kind of turn-based games I find, or for most of them. The cool thing about Crusader Kings, and I know again people will say Crusader Kings is easy, lols, etc. Yes, it is pretty easy once you're good at it, but I think if you play it in a more role-play style, or even just playing it, even if you know exactly what you want to do and exactly how you're going to do it, you can like 95% of the time play out that way you want to do it. But with Crusader Kings, I always find no matter how easy I think it's getting, there's always that chance that something bad can happen. You can lose a war you didn't think you were gonna, you can lose your troops, other nations around you can see that you're weakened and then they'll declare war on you. Maybe you just get an unlucky set of rebellions that kind of compile on top of each other, and then you have a Northman army invasion, maybe somebody else does a crusade against you or something, and you can end up losing land that you had. And I always feel like that is something that can happen in Crusader Kings. And I feel like the Disease Edition, now it's had some balancing, really adds that to you. You can't really just sit there, play the eugenics game, have these perfect heirs. Previously, they could die, obviously, but now there's a much bigger chance that they can just randomly die from disease. Even if you set things up really nice, a disease can come in and just wipe out your plans, and then you've got to start again or just roll with what you've got. And I actually really like that edition. I think it's much better now after they've done some balancing. And I think it's in a pretty good place. Again, let me know what you think in the comments. I think diseases are generally something you want to avoid, obviously, going to now. But they're not like crazy rampaging around the map like they used to do. I think they're in a pretty good spot now. And I think they've been a fantastic addition. And the Black Death especially is fantastic. One thing I will say, if you haven't done this, for the Black Death, go into the game rules and change it so it can spawn at any time and from any location in the map. I find that much more interesting for campaigns because you're not waiting till late game. You know when it's going to roughly come. You can kind of prepare for it a little bit. If it's random spawning, random time it can spawn, it's just that little bit of extra spiciness, a little bit of extra randomness, and can make cool little campaigns. So I definitely recommend giving that a go if you haven't already. I think it is pretty fun to do it that way. And that is really, to be honest, the Legends of the Dead DLC. There were some other things as well. We're not going to cover everything here. If you're watching this video, you've probably played most of this DLC or know roughly what's in there. So do I think Legends of the Dead was a good addition? Yes, I do. I don't think it's the best DLC they've ever made, but I don't think it's the worst DLC they've ever made either. I will say I'm going to do a new DLC tier list in the next couple of days to be able to see where I rank it. But I think it was a good addition, a fine addition to like the, I'm going to call it like the base of the game. Obviously, you need the DLC to get the most out of it, but I think a lot of the DLC this season pass, to give a little bit more of a spoiler, really kind of like built out the base of the game. And that is something that they said at the time they wanted to do this year. That's why there was no flavor pack. They wanted to build out the mechanical side of the game and have these things that they can build on in later DLC. But anyway, that's Legends of the Dead out the way. Next, we got, yes, Roads to Power. That was the major expansion this year. And let's not beat around the bush. It was the best DLC they've released. Well, it could be around about as good as Tours and Tournaments, but it's definitely in that top tier of DLC. This was an amazing addition to the game and really brought a style of play with Unlanded that I wasn't really looking forward to. If you'd asked me 2 years ago, do you want unlanded gameplay? I would have said no. I think I even said in a video once, like, I'm not interested in this. Like, why would I want to be an unlanded character? But how it plays in game is just so fun to play. I know people say it's too good, it's too overpowered. And my answer to that is, so what? It's fun. It's really enjoyable to do. If you're having a campaign, maybe you've finished what you're going after, maybe you're doing an achievement, maybe you're just playing in England and you want to form Britannia, and then you're kind of bored, and previously you would have to start a new game. Well, now when you die, you can just become an unlanded character and go off to India, the Mongols, Africa, wherever you want to go, settle down there instead and have a whole nother campaign, but continuing on your campaign map. I think it's such a cool addition to the game. I really think it's up there with tours and tournaments as like game defining now. And again, as I was saying, not something I thought I'd enjoy, but I absolutely love it. Now, I may be controversial here. I know I've just been singing the praises of this DLC, but I don't actually enjoy the Byzantine rework. Now, I'm not saying it's bad. I think it's actually a really cool thing they did, having this separate way to play the game that is very different to the normal gameplay. So we really have like unlanded gameplay, landed normal characters, and then you have these admin government type characters, which isn't just for the Byzantine Empire, but it is very much where you're going to interact with it the most, unless you change the game rules or found an admin empire. Now, the actual gameplay of that, as I just said, I don't actually enjoy that much. I've played a few times in the Byzantine Empire. I don't find it that interesting to play. I think I prefer feudal, clan, tribal, unlanded gameplay a lot more than admin government type. I can see why people do enjoy it, so I'm not saying it's bad. Like I've been saying, I think this is a great addition. So the actual system, I think, is good. It just doesn't match my gameplay. I just don't really enjoy playing that style of gameplay. So you'll have to let me know in the comments, do you play there that often? Do you enjoy it when you do play there? The one thing I will say, and this came up a lot on my live streams once this DLC came out, is I think they need some kind of tutorial for unlanded gameplay in the game. So if you play in the Byzantines or if you join an admin realm, there should be some kind of like pop-up where it tells you a little bit more of how to actually play this gameplay, because a lot of the stuff I heard back at the time was, I have no idea what I'm doing. I've been playing in the Byzantine Empire for like 2 or 3 hours and I have no idea what I'm doing. What am I supposed to do? I can't just play my usual type of gameplay, and I'm just not enjoying it. There's just too much going on. I don't know how to progress, things like that. So I think they could do with some kind of tutorial, because not everyone reads the dev diaries. Those dev diaries were huge as well. Or, you know, people don't watch content creator videos like my own, which again, I think there were over an hour for each of those dev diaries around admin government types. And I think it's just way different to the base gameplay, that I think they need a little bit more onboarding for people to really explain how it works. Maybe if there was even like a mini set of like achievements or something the first time you played there that went in and said, okay, try and make this house less powerful, build up your estate, do all these other things, and then you would get a rough idea of what you're supposed to be doing. Again, let me know what you think in the comments. I think that is a problem a lot of people had, and I can't imagine if you picked up Crusader Kings 3, got Roads to Power as your first DLC, and then the very first campaign you did was playing the Byzantine Empire, which, to be honest, there's probably people who have done that. The Byzantines, one of the most popular places to play. You might have picked the game up, and then you go into the game and you play in the Byzantine Empire. You're probably going to just uninstall the game because you'll have no idea what you're doing. I know Crusader Kings isn't the easiest game to get into, but I think you could generally pick up the game, play in somewhere tribal, as we all know, beginner island, and you can roughly learn the game. And the tutorial, to be fair, is pretty good at actually teaching you how to do it. And the UI and everything in CK3 versus CK2 is a lot more approachable. But I can't imagine being a new player and then going in and trying to play admin government type and actually having a clue what you're supposed to do. So I think that is one area they could improve with this DLC. And then, to be honest, the last bit that we got as part of this really was the 1178 start date. I really like this. I think this is a cool start date. The map is very interesting. As I've said previously on the channel, this gets you into the late game of the game a lot quicker. You've got the Fourth Crusade, you've got the Mongols coming, you've got the Black Death coming. You've got a lot more kind of tools in your toolbox. You've got a lot of the laws unlocked, a lot more of the units, things like that. So I really like this later start date. I can't wait for them to add further content around this. Maybe some France versus England DLC, something like that. There's plenty of stuff they could add in this time frame, which would make it even more interesting. This was a fantastic addition to the game as well. And then, like I say, outside of that, it was mainly the Byzantine flavor content, the actual admin system. the family estate. That was really the building blocks for Merchant Republics as well. I'd be amazed if we don't get something that looks kind of like that for Merchant Republics. But overall, Roads to Power, as I've said, a fantastic addition, even though I don't enjoy one half of it that much. And the ability for them to bring in 2 different ways to play the game in one DLC, the amount of content we got, I think this is probably just better than Tours and Tournaments. I don't know, Tours and Tournaments like redefine the game almost in many ways. And I think this really built on top of that a fantastic DLC. Definitely one to pick up if you haven't already. And then the last bit of DLC we got was the Wandering Nobles event pack. Now, straight away, I'm going to say this is the best event pack we've had. I know that isn't saying much, but I think this was actually a pretty cool addition to the game. The new Wandering Lifestyle tree, they really did play into what they said in the dev diaries at launch, that they wanted this lifestyle to be something that you have to actually go out and actively do to get the benefits from it. And if you haven't played it, if you haven't got this DLC, they definitely did that. The bonuses you get from the 3 different trees, well, 4 technically, because Inspector has 1 for both types of gameplay, you really do have to go out into the world and earn the bonuses you get from them. And then the bonuses are really good, but you actually feel like you're going out, you're exploring the world, and then you're bringing in the rewards from doing that. I will say, I think the title for this one is like really badly chosen. Wandering Nobles, coming straight after Roads to Power. I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of players are confused and think this is like an expansion to Roads to Power. I've seen that in some of the comments on my channel. This feels like DLC cut out of Roads to Power, but it's actually mostly focused on landed characters, and it is really a DLC to Tours and Tournaments, if anything else. It's additional things you can do, additional ways to play it. It actually solves one of the things I have a problem with Tours and Tournaments that I actually mentioned earlier, and that is things like the Grand Tour, the Grand Wedding, are very expensive to do, especially once you're a king or higher. The cost of them is so much that generally I just don't do them. I can count on one hand how many Grand Tours I've done in this game because they're just so expensive. I've got better things to be spending like 600 gold on before I even go on the tour itself. Whereas now with the inspections, the hikes, the mountain expeditions, these are much cheaper. Yes, you get different rewards, but there's something you can do, and it's something more along the lines of like feasts or hunts, where you can spend the money and you can see the rewards straight away, and it feels like the right kind of price to be paying for those activities to get something out of them, especially the inspection one, going out to the border counties of your realm, picking up claims, picking up vassal acceptance, all those kind of things is just such a cool way to add further like traversal around the map that Tours and Tournaments brought in. Seeing your character on the map, seeing him kind of patrolling around the edge of your realm, talking to local nobles, all that kind of stuff is just so fun to do. I think this was an awesome addition. And like I say, the lifestyle trees themselves, I think are pretty good, pretty interesting, the 3 different ones. I think Wayfarer probably isn't the most interesting one, but Voyager is great and really a good unlanded character tree as well, which is kind of fun to see. And then the final part of this was just a bunch of new events based on the travel, the lifestyle, and all the activities. And some of these are pretty good as well. More events is always good. More of a pot for all the events to be pulled out of. As the game gets older, as more DLC is released, you're not seeing the same events over and over and over again. And this really helped with that as well. And with that, guys, that is the DLC we got. Again, we got the Close of the Capet, but that was just a cosmetic pack. And it doesn't really matter, to be honest. I don't think many people even realize what they get in there. But this was the like 3 paid DLCs that most people would think of. Overall, do I think it was worth it? As the title says, yes, I think it was. I think it's probably the best chapter. In fact, no, I think it definitely is the best chapter of content we've got. Chapter 2 was pretty good. This is by far the best. I think all the DLC is worth picking up. Is it worth the full price? I can't decide that for you. I would say it was, but if you don't have the money, just wait for a sale and pick it up on sale. You will not be disappointed no matter which one you get here. And some of these mechanics are obviously in the base game as well, but admin government isn't. I think legends aren't unless you have the DLC. You can't start them yourself. And obviously the lifestyle tree from Wandering Nobles, you have to have the DLC for as well. So yeah, for me, I think it was worth paying for it. I did get the chapter pass and I am very happy with what I've got. I do understand if you watch this and you didn't like any of this, you might say, no, this one was terrible. But that's really how the season passes go for Crusader Kings. If you like playing in Iberia, you like the second one. If you like playing in Northern Lords, you probably like the first season pass, apart from the Royal Court, which no one likes. And I guess the last thing I want to talk about is this is the first season where we didn't get a flavor pack. Do you think that was the right choice? Now, I'm going to say, I think it was the right choice to get rid of flavor packs for this season. All the DLC we have here is something that you can play on the entirety of the map. Obviously, the Byzantine content is focused on the Byzantine Empire, but all the work they put into that can be played elsewhere for the most part, apart from the very Byzantine flavor events and things like that. But everything else we really got this year is stuff that you can play on the entire map. It added flavor to the map. It gave you extra things to do no matter where you went. And I think with unlanded gameplay, you probably explore the map more than you ever did. Like Tours and Tournaments got us out exploring the realm, but that was really internally for the most part. But with Roads to Power, I've gone to parts of the map I've never been to before where I would never start a game because maybe they don't have content, like the Steppe Lords or something like that. I'm not going into the northeast of the map usually because it's just boring to play in. But with this, I'm traveling up there because I just want to go on an adventure. Maybe I've got a treasure map that sent me in that direction, and then I end up doing a war. Maybe I get some land while I'm playing there now. This is cool. I become an emperor. I die. Well, I'm going to go down to the Byzantines. I'm going to play an admin government type for a bit. Okay, I'm bored of that. I'm going to become unlanded. I'm going to go up and play in France and just found an empire, and then that may be the end of my game. And I think it just unlocked so many cool things to do in your campaigns this season. Overall, a fantastic season. Definitely worth picking up if you have the money. If not, just wait for it in a sale and pick it up then. And with that, that is my review of Chapter 3. What do I think is coming in Chapter 4? Well, I'll be doing a video about that in the next week or so. So do make sure you've liked the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. As I've said, I've got a tier list coming out in the next couple of days for all the DLCs, so you can see what you might want to pick up in the future. And then I do have that what's coming in 2025 or in Chapter 4 video that'll be coming out next week. And we can discuss why Merchant Republics are definitely coming to the game and other things as well. But we'll leave it there for today, and I'll see you in the next one.